within my small How to Use After Effects 2023 workshops. This is also a little bit of a refresher from my previous After Effects videos created on earlier versions. And to kickstart how to get into some of the fundamentals of animating and understanding After Effects' workspace, we're going to create a very quick little title card with your name, which is going to be animated on there. So you've seen how that looks earlier on in this video, and we're just going to get straight in there. I'll delete this for now so you can kind of see how I go about importing it. So first things first, I'm going to right click in my project space, go to import and select file. And it's right here in my downloads. Now you can, if you want to, just drag and drop from whatever you're working in as well. That'll work too. I'm doing things the long way. Royalty-free image from Pexels. It's 6720 by 4480, so it's really important I don't create new composition from this footage or from this JPEG, because that's humongous. What I am going to do instead, much like in my previous videos, is use a HD 1920 by 1080 25 frames per second timeline, and I'm going to call this title card. Again, 5 seconds long. Maybe adjust this to 10 seconds. I can always make it shorter later on, but I give myself a bit of time to work in. Background color is fine as grey. So what I'm going to do immediately is just drag this image into my timeline, and as we can see, it's huge. So all I need to do is hit S on the keyboard to scale it back. And I am going to need to cut off a little bit. If I try to get it down to the top, I am going to get these little windows, these little cut-off points, and I don't want that. So somewhere about there is fine. And again, I've got a little bit of wiggle room if I need to adjust it or something like that. Now, my title is going to appear here next to it and here. If I was going to do this properly, I would probably want to match up the fonts so it didn't look so unusual. But you know, this image is just for demonstration purposes. It doesn't really have much relevance, but it should always have relevance for your projects. It's just I want to show you some cool stuff. Okay, so we've got our image. Now what I'm going to do is right click, new and text, and that's going to open up above. That's fine. And I'm just going to type my name in. And as you can see, it's also changed the text title here too, which is good. If I click away from this, you'll also notice that my cursor has changed and it's still in the text box format. Now if I start clicking away, it's going to keep creating multiple text layers. So what we want to do is hit V on our keyboard to bring back our selection tool. And remember, we could start clicking and dragging, but because I am so far away from it, it's doing some unusual things. So to move it where I want to sort of have it in its final resting place is drop down the options, go to transform, and we're going to change the position. Now if you want a keyboard shortcut for this, you just activate your layer and hit P to bring up position. I'm just going to move this out of the way so I can see it. Now unfortunately, if I zoom in a little bit, I can see it a little bit better. It's all over the place. On the right hand side though, we now have some character options, and we're going to work in here now for a little bit. The first thing I do want to do is just change this anchor point. Now the anchor point is quite important because wherever this is, if I want to animate my title or text, it will kind of animate from this perspective, which might work in most instances, but if I just hit R to sort of show you what I mean, you can see it's pivoting from that point. I'd rather it do whatever it's going to do from the middle of my name. So to do that, I can just grab this tool here. It's the pan behind tool, or Y on the keyboard, and I'm just going to move that to the middle, and then also hit the V tool, the V key, to bring back my selection tool. Now I do want to size this up, but I don't want to scale the layer because that's not actually sizing up, it's just zooming in. So what we're going to do is double click on the text layer to highlight it, and we're going to change the size here in pixels, and I'm going to go for something that looks close to the size of these fonts, so maybe 75. I also want to find a text font that looks similar, and I can do that by just having a look here, and I'm not going to find something exact because I don't know the font that this artist has used. So again, we're just going to find something similar. Now you can kind of see the samples on the right hand side. Something like that looks quite nice. The text looks a little bit further away than that, so we can always adjust how much these sort of come together with using this horizontal scale option there. And I can also maybe not adjust those two actually. Instead use this. Yeah, so you can play around with that until you get something that you're kind of happy with. I'm actually going to just adjust it using this tool here, which is the tracking. So sort of make them closer together, not too much, so that it looks similar to the spacing on each of these characters. Could probably do with just changing the font, to be fair. Anyway, let's keep it at that. I'm also going to change the colour of the font. Let's go for black, because it's easy to see it against the yellow background. So obviously, now my anchor point has changed, so I'm just going to grab that and move it around there. There we go. Another good rule of thumb is to always save your projects. So before I go any further, I'm just pressing Command S or Control S, and I'm just going to rename this on my desktop to AE Practice. And I'm going to hit the Save tool. All right, okay, so now I'm moving it around here because I can see the text a little bit easier. And let's get that maybe over here. Now, that's pretty much the style I'm going to go for. Now, if I duplicate this text layer by hitting Command D, I'm going to have two Olivers, but if I grab one and move it under the other, double click this and type in my surname, we've got ourselves two text layers done quite quickly with the same settings, which can be quite helpful. Now for this Reeve, I'm going to put that over here. And I might just line these up here. Now we could copy this style quite quickly by just creating a new solid. And I'm just going to call this tape 1. I'm also going to get my color picker and select the same color of black, because it might be slightly different than just, and it is, as we can see there, than just full black. And I'm just going to make it comp size, click OK. I can turn off my eyeball like so. With this still active though, I'm going to create a mask. So I've turned it off, it is still there, but as you can see, tape 1 is selected. I'm going to get this little rectangle tool, and I'm just going to draw a rectangle like that. You still can't see it though, but if I turn the black solid back on, you can see there it has just created a mask detailing this amount that we wanted, and you can see that the mask is now here too. Now if I move tape 1 underneath Oliver, we're not going to see my name still because it was black. So if I just change this now to white, click OK, we can see that back there. So if I'm happy with the scaling of this, I could just leave it as it is, but as it stands, I'm not. So I'm just going to scale it down slightly. And you'll notice this is scaling funny because my anchor point is there. So again, good practice. Just grab this anchor point and move it to the middle here. Oh, did the wrong anchor point then. Make sure your tape is selected and then move it. Go back to my selection tool. And now when I hit S to scale it, it's going to scale around there. And I can also rotate it slightly now by hitting R and try to mimic that. Now again, it still doesn't look exactly like this. I could edit my text a little bit better, but for speed purposes, I'm just going to keep these together. Okay, so now if I wanted to move or animate these together, the easiest way to do this, while I'm here, let me just duplicate tape 1. So we've got 2 tapes, and I'm just going to rename this top one to tape 2. And drag that one underneath Reeve, and then change the color of my text to white. So we've got something like that. So if I wanted to keep these together, what we can do is pre-compose them. Now a pre-composition is very similar to a composition, but it means that it will be existing within this composition. It will still appear up here, and that's just so that we can open these if we wanted to independently edit them later on. So we're going to select these two layers by holding Shift and clicking on both of them, right-clicking and hitting pre-compose, and I'm just going to call this Reeve tab. Move all attributes and hit OK. And we're going to do the same for the Oliver, and again pre-compose, Oliver tab. And now you can see we've just got two easy to work with layers like so, but they do look like compositions, and you'll see that they have opened here. And that is again because if I double click this Oliver tab, now you can see that that just exists on its own. So if we wanted to adjust the size of each one of these, they are non-destructive. If I hit S, for example, and scale this up, you'll notice that this, whatever happens in this tab, affects this tab here. So this pipeline is quite good for non-destructive editing, or destructive editing if you do something by accident. But no, the fact that you can have it in its own process and pipeline means that it's less destructive. Oh, excuse me, needed a quick drink. Okay, so let's get to doing something with this. We're going to animate, and what I'm going to do is animate them coming out of the what if this is all real. So to do that, we are going to create some, we're going to create a mask that they hide within. So within this Oliver's pre-composition, if I just grab my selection tool here and draw this box like so. Maybe actually I'll have it Command Z that. Actually I'm going to have it start just as this box kind of appears like so. Something like so. Yeah, that looks okay. Now everything that is within this mask can be seen. And if I grab my Oliver tab and double click it and move my selections here, over here, what we should see is it disappears like so. So what we're going to do in the Oliver tab is just create a position animation from here at 0 seconds to maybe 2 seconds moving over here. Now to create an animation, we're going to use these stopwatches. So if you click on the stopwatch, you're telling After Effects to, at this point on the timeline, make its first, this is where you would like this thing to be. If I move my cursor to 2 seconds, and now draw the path over to about here, you're telling After Effects that between 0 seconds and 2 seconds, if we hit space to play, we're getting this animation. Now, if we look at our title card, we're going to see this happening as we see it. So we've got a cool little animation of the text disappearing and reappearing. And we can repeat this process for the Reeve tab. And you might want to offset this and have it starting so it comes on a little bit later. I'm not, I'm just going to have mine starting from the same point. So we're going to hit P, stopwatch it, and just move the position so it's out of the way. Move to 2 seconds, and then have this animating like so. So now we have, ooh, this happening. So the reason we're seeing Reeve again is because we need to draw a mask, and we're going to draw a mask this time at this side of the screen. So Reeve has now disappeared, but when we hit space, we've got a cool little animation happening. Now, obviously, you know, I want that mask to be a little bit better, so I can, if I wanted to, move these points. So again, I'm just selecting the mask, and I'm just going to move it to somewhere like so. Yeah. So what we've done there is a very basic animation of 2 bits of text animating from left and right, and we're using masks and showing how masks are used as well. So that's it for this very fast tutorial. Obviously, if you were to do this yourself, try to match the fonts a little bit nicer, try to match the design, and you know, just make it all fit together, composite it properly together. That's it for this video.